Good morning from 102.7 KPGZ in Kearney, Missouri. Glad to have you listening today. Rainy, thundery today. 66 right now, heading on up to 85 later on today at 10:32 right now. Brian Watts here with you, K-Town's Morning Zone. I've got a studio full of people here that we're going to introduce you to in just a minute. My friends Mike Davis, Jim Dickerson are in studio, and we're talking with Glenn Kaiser this morning. Is one of our musicians, gospel blues musicians that roams around the country. And just going to be a great morning today of live music and sharing Glenn's story. We've also got Pastor Mike Coughlin here in studio and just a room full of people. And go ahead, Mike, why don't you introduce us to Glenn here a little bit?
Hey, Glenn, we are so glad you're in here with us today. I know that you are from Chicago. That's your home base, right?
That's right, yep.
And you're in Kansas City for some reason. Let the audience know, why on earth are you here in Kansas City?
Well, been here actually a number of times over the years, playing in clubs and different coffee houses and stuff. But this time around, a dear friend, actually in the Kearney area, closer to Kearney, his daughter's getting married.
Woohoo!
And one of the songs I wrote years ago I've done like 37 albums or something. I'm not kidding at this point. One of those songs I said, gotta have that one in the wedding, right? So I'm like, wow. So the next thing I know, I'm in town, and tomorrow night at 7:30 at the Covenant Church here in
Outstanding.
Kearney.
Outstanding. Well, that's super. Oh, it's tonight?
Tonight.
Mike is...
Forgive me.
So,
That's right. It is tonight.
So
sorry.
Glenn, that is
Make that tonight.
right. The pitfalls of being on tour, I guess, as it were.
Tomorrow's the wedding, tonight's the gig.
There you go. Yeah, well, and listen, there are a couple of people in this room who can't keep their lives straight, even with the calendar. That's
true.
And
You're very kind.
well,
Thank you.
one of them is me.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about me for a second.
But so obviously you've got a couple of very important events that are coming up here, and man, I got to tell you, Glenn, when Brian told me you were going to be on the air with us, I was really excited. In the first place, I said, "Wait a minute, who's Glenn Kaiser?" And I really had not heard the name. So the first thing I did was, I knew you were a musician. I went to YouTube, and what I found was way more video music tunes that you had written that you're performing. And the first thing that I said was, oh my goodness. In fact, I sent these guys a text message and I said, Glenn Kaiser was born to sing the blues.
Oh, you're kind. Yeah, well, went through quite a bit as a young guy growing up in south central Wisconsin, in farm country.
I hear that in your voice, the Wisconsin.
Well, it's there, and my dad lost we got sick. He got sick. He had 3 operations. We lost everything. And so I was hunting and fishing for a living and on welfare for 3.5, 4 years.
And how old were you at the time?
Oh, God. Well, I was a third of 3 kids. And when the divorce happened, actually I was 9, but the breakup happened in their marriage. At that point when he got ill, man, I would have been 6, probably about 6. Or a little younger. So a lot of pain. And, it gets cold in the winter time up there in Wisconsin. And literally had an old-fashioned small, not even a big, pot-belly stove. And we couldn't hardly afford coal, so we'd go out and collect wood. And it was, single-shot 22, pop a squirrel or 2, give rabbit right in the pan that night.
Right.
Figuring out where the asparagus grew along the highway and when in season picking it. And, so I very much relate to underdog people. I relate to hurting people, to whoever the outcasts are, been there, done that.
Right. At what point did you decide that guitar was your instrument, and how did that come about?
Well, like a lot of people my age, saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, lost my mind, and then made my mama lose hers as I bugged her for a guitar and an amp.
Yeah.
My brother was in the army over in Germany. This was prior to Vietnam. Came back with a beat up acoustic guitar, and never played it, and handed it to me.
Oh boy!
Well, I had seen the Beatles. And before my mom finally bought me that cheapo electric guitar and amp for Christmas that next year, I started to mess around figuring out 2-string chords.
Yeah.
Just 2 notes
in
a 6-string. And messing around on that. And I think the first song I wrote was called "Don't Lie to Me." I was 13 at the time.
Wow.
Kind of in social commentary land already. And,
Right.
And the first band I was in, there were a lot of bands called the Lost Souls, and this was one of them in working class suburb Milwaukee called West Dallas. And a couple of these guys were a lot older than me, and one of them was a lot younger. And I just watched them and learned to play guitar that way.
Yeah.
And that was like doing R&B and soul music and blues.
Right.
And then starting to get back into the rock stuff. And
Right. It says here on the news release that in 1971 that you joined a group that would later become Resurrection Band, and also known as Rez, R-E-Z.
Yep.
And it says that you fronted this rock band for more than 25 years.
well, one of these days I should. The truth is, I'm just a guy. I wear my pants like everybody else.
Maybe not like Jim.
Well,
his are on
Mine are
backwards
a
today.
little, honestly, right now I'm just glad to be wearing pants.
Well, anyway, I put one leg in after the. The point is, I started the band. No big deal. One of these days I'll mention that, and they'll probably correct it. But it's not that big of a deal to me. Yeah, I mean, I had morphed back into rock. And somebody asked me in another radio interview years ago somewhere, here in Europe or something, a white guy playing blues
Right.
and R&B and soul. How'd you get back into
Right.
or ever really get into rock? And I said, well, Jimi Hendrix. And he about fell off his chair laughing at me. I mean, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
But it really took that to bring me back into quote unquote white music.
Right.
But of course, the foundation of all of it's the blues.
It's absolutely true. No doubt about that. And those are I think you mentioned something off the air about what was the quote that, what is the blues?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's attributed actually to, if you really dig through it, it's attributed to a country music fan or a star, which I don't remember which one, but an African-American bluesman, older bluesman, quoted that as well. What is the blues? They asked him, and he said 3 chords and the truth. And that really,
Exactly right.
it's most of the time it's pretty honest about the struggles
Right.
of life. And, I realized some years ago, Book of Psalms is the biggest book of the Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
The biggest category of lyrics are laments.
Yeah.
And I don't
I
know
never thought of that. Right.
Well, and
Yeah.
most pastors, what drives me nuts is most pastors and worship leaders don't know what the book says about music. But specifically, 57 or 58, depending on how you slice it, are Psalms of Lament. And lament is all about struggle and pain, and I got enemies, and I need help. I mean, this life sucks, and I'm not digging it. And and that was the hymnal of Israel for several hundred years. Think that through. So the sense of reality, of genuineness from way back was always the thing for me. When I thought somebody was, don't lie to me, when I thought somebody was shamming,
Right.
I was done. I didn't care how proficient you are at rhetoric or delivery or.
You can.
I don't care.
You can see.
I don't care.
Right. If it's not authentic, you can see through.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? What? Don't. Life is too short.
Right.
I don't need the games.
Now you have in your hand right here in front of me. This is a. Explain to me what that is. It's got 3 strings on it.
Well, later this may end up in a podcast, and so there's some filming going on, so you guys might be able to see this later. But it's called a cigar box guitar. It is literally a cigar box. No, I don't smoke, and I don't recommend it. I did for quite a few years back in the day. But, yeah, this is a cigar box guitar. It happens to have a couple of pickups in it made by a friend named Jack in the Chicago area. I make these as well. This has frets. This one's a 3-stringer. Usually I play 3 or 1-stringers. I got a diddly bow 1-stringer, which I'll haul out in a bit. And you can play this.
And for those of you who are listening to us, you can also join us on Facebook Live and see the video live, so you can see exactly what Glenn's talking about here.
Cool, thank you. And this is a plumber's fitting. I use all sorts of stuff for
T-fitting.
slides.
Right.
Yeah, so you play. But because it's got a pickup, I can pop it into an amplifier
Sure.
as well, or through a PA. So it's just. Huddy Ledbetter, otherwise known as Lead Belly.
Mm-hmm.
Believing in the morning, you know which way to go. Leaving in the morning, you know which way to go. But you'll be leaving on that C&O. And get a credit card pick, which, I mean, it is what it is.
That sounds amazing. You're listening. That was Glenn Kaiser. Glenn is in town here in Kansas City. Well, actually in Kearney, Missouri, and you're here for a wedding in Excelsior. Is that correct?
Yeah, a couple of things are going on. The show tonight at Kearney, at the Covenant Church here in Kearney, but then there's also a couple of things going on. And I'm spacing. It's a Covenant Church. It has Freedom Covenant in Kansas City, and they meet at 9 and 11. And if I'm correct, in 2 different places. And they do a lot with homeless folks. I live in the inner city of Chicago, and our church actually is involved. We have about a 400-bed homeless shelter in the inner city. I'm also a chaplain. I'm at Cook County Jail a lot, and I just got finished doing yet another prison tour all over Ohio. How do people get in those situations? I mean, I was an addict finally, everything but needles, everything you could do but shooting heroin. And I was ready to shoot that when I came to a relationship with Jesus. And so I was just before I turned 18, everything changed. Prior to that, man, it was just like, how can I keep myself loaded? How can I get more booze, more dope, up my nose, down my throat? Any way I can put it in, and except for needles at that point, and playing in bands and using ladies instead of respecting and caring about humans. And
the unfortunately for many folks, the music industry has a lot of temptations.
Well, the world does, but yeah, sure, because it's pleasure, and when you feel like you don't know any other way to get it, really.
Right.
And the people you're hanging with, there's an old Bad Company, the band Bad Company.
Right.
It's from a blues song, an old blues song. Reverend Gary Davis, who he's the Hendrix of Piedmont blues, incredible guitarist. And I can do one of those tunes, one of his tunes later, a part of it. Bad Company brought me here.
Yeah. Completely
I was just
understandable.
death row in Ohio. I've been there many times, and Bad Company I'm talking about put the death cap. They're going to screw the death cap on my head. Back in the days of the electric chair, It's all about Bad Company.
Yeah.
I mean, it's who you hang with.
Now you came out of this though pretty well, and actually your foray into the music business was just past your age 18 or so. So you were still tempted by many of these things.
Well, what I did was I very quickly realized that music had to take a back seat to reality, and that the way I can explain this is music was one of my gods. It was a drug in and of itself.
Right.
And I could sing, I could play. I play guitar, bass, play drums, and whatever. But I got to a place where this has to take a back seat to being a human being. And my failure at relationships, which, of course, my parents are divorced. My brother his girlfriend left him. He went through a couple of divorces. My sister went through 3, I think, and finally gave up after the 4th, on marriage. I saw all around me, heck, 3/4 of the people on my block in the suburbs of Milwaukee were divorced, So no condemnation to divorced people. That's not what I'm doing here. That's not what I'm saying. But the fracturing of relationships. What is love? What does love mean?
Right.
What about commitment?
Yeah.
What about, Wendy and I just celebrated, my wife and I, our 47th anniversary
Wow,
in June.
congratulations.
I mean, it's just like a miracle.
Yeah.
I mean, but for me to do anything for 6 months at a time, to stay in the same band for 6 months.
Right.
I never did it. I was in like 12 bands all through my teen years, and I'd keep leaving them because I'd get tired, I'd get bored, I didn't like the people, they didn't like me, whatever. There's always a reason to blow it up.
Right.
And in blues, in lyrics, you find a lot of it, it's a little bit like, well, this is the way it is. Pain's part of life.
Right.
Struggle's part of life. What do you do with it? Well, self-medication.
Right.
I mean, it's very common. Music was one of those. Now, I believe in music therapy. Don't get me wrong. I really do. It's legit. It's part of the reason I do music, I'm sure. But what do you have to give people?
Right. Well, you've obviously found you have a gift and you have an outlet by which to hopefully spread your message and your story with folks who are either on the edge and in very, very difficult situations.
What happened was I dropped it all. I stopped playing. I just kind of moved away from it. And after a time, some dear friends who I really looked up to, who really did have stable lives and who did love the Lord, said, man, why don't you pick up the guitar? Do a song in the coffee house on Sunday night or whatever, this and that. And the next thing you know, it's like snowballing.
I can hear by the way, the thunder is booming overhead. So maybe that's a sign for something. We're not sure what.
Well, I can tell you a few stories. Somebody handed me a guitar and I was up in front of 5,000 people. I had no prep and I had no songs at that point. I'm not kidding you. And I started playing.
It's no way to go through life, Glenn.
Well, but I mean, I'd removed myself from some months. You know, I mean, I just did it because I needed to get healed. I needed to get away from all this kind of the sonic nook. I don't know how to explain it. So I'm up there, and the best folk singer, beside Dylan maybe, that I'd heard, I turned around and faced 5,000 people. I just made it spontaneous, right? Well, you know, from blues, you know, it's okay. You know, I can do that. 3 verses, a chorus, the words all rhymed. It just kind of happened.
That's amazing.
A bunch of people were super responsive. I don't know, maybe I actually sang good at the time. Sat down and what the heck was that all about?
Yeah.
You know, that was one of those like, boom, I heard
epiphany.
something. What's going on?
Right.
Let's play some then. Let's hear some blues.
Yeah. You want to go ahead and let's
go to the diddly bow, right? So
okay.
So here, you know, when you get to see this on Facebook, you'll get.
Yeah,
what do you do with
we're on Facebook
now?
Live.
The women might say, "Oh," the guys will say, "What the ugly Christmas cookie tin," and that's what it is. And what do you do with it? Well, you put a heavy wound acoustic guitar string on it.
Yeah, one
you
string.
use an eye bolt.
Yeah,
it's a one stringer, which Bo Diddley, he just inverted that phrase, which always referred to in the African American community in the South, diddly bow. So that's where Bo Diddley got his stage name.
There it is.
So you got a one stringer there, and you got that metal vibe. So it kind of fakes a dobro, which I also actually have a dobro. But here's an old black spiritual. Where did I learn this from? Blind Willie McTell, maybe, or no. It would have been R.L. Burnside. Wish I was in heaven sitting down. Wish I was in heaven sitting down. Oh, my Lord, I wish I was in heaven sitting down. I'm gonna shake Daddy by his hand. I'm gonna shake my daddy's hand. Oh, my Lord, I'm gonna shake my daddy's hand. I worship King Jesus at his feet. I'm gonna worship my Savior at his feet. Oh, my Lord, I'm gonna worship Jesus at his feet.
Outstanding. Oh, that was terrific.
Diddly bow. What can you do with one string?
Yeah, you just did it, I think. Yeah.
And what if that's all? One of my little raps to folks as I intro songs in prisons and jails. What if all you got is one string?
Right.
It's not what you got. It's what you do with it.
Well, you just tore it up. We're listening to Glenn Kaiser.
You're kind.
Yeah, right here in studio with us today, and it's really fun to have you here. It's a lot of fun. Brian, it's my first opportunity. I know you've done it with some others in the studio to have live musicians in
Oh,
here.
yeah.
As we like live musicians better than dead musicians, but But no, it really is a lot of fun to have somebody in here that can actually play and let our audience enjoy something that's really, really unique. Now, that is the very first time I've ever seen anybody play a one-string guitar.
Me too.
Well, back in the day when they had nothing and coming out of slavery,
Right.
and poor whites did this as well in sharecropping time, alongside African American folks, particularly in the South. Take a 10-penny nail, big long nails, and in the side of a house or a tobacco barn or even the corner post, big thick corner posts that were sunk in the earth, they'd maybe 6 inches off the ground, perpendicular, pound that nail in, and then about as high as they could reach, pound another halfway out, broom wire or baling wire of some sort. There's always around these farms in the South, and stretch it, finally get it to hold a note,
Right.
up and down with a bottle, glass, smooth stone, back of a butter knife handle, whatever.
Anything to change the note.
I mean,
Yeah.
there it is, and sing along with it. And it's,
Right.
it's the origin of the slide guitar is the truth of it. And the cigar box guitars, in Africa, it was tortoise shells. It was hollowed out pieces of log, burned out, and ultimately some sort of a stick. And they would take literally catgut intestines, the first sort of nylon strings back in the day, and in Europe but in Africa in particular. And then they would stretch 1, 2, or 3 across. And actually, they would, check this out, they would use strips of rawhide, from animal skins.
Right.
And salivate them, lick them
Right.
real thorough so they'd be soaking wet. Pull that string and wrap that thing around real tight, that piece of rawhide. And when it dried, try to tune it.
Right.
And then they would do a second string with another piece of rawhide.
Yeah.
And so they'd end up sometimes with 2, 3, 4 strings. There are a lot of names and a lot of course, African languages and tribes. But Ngoni is usually, it's an N with a apostrophe, Goni. And you see these, and they're still used today, where a piece of animal skin is stretched across some sort of a body, like a turtle shell or some sort of a cavity,
Right.
And then a hole in it, and strings stretched across. And maybe they leave the 2 on the outside, this unison, the same note, an octave apart, 12-step apart.
Right.
Ba, ba, and then in the 2 middle, ba, ba, or whatever. And they figure out where those notes are.
Yes.
And they strum them. And they put pickups on them, and there's bands that play that stuff all over the place.
Well, you talk about necessity being the mother of invention, I guess.
Yeah.
My
Yeah,
goodness, if you
absolutely.
really want to play, you can make an instrument.
Well, here's the other deal. Sometimes you got to stretch out a little bit. So when I was about 8 years old,
Oh, yeah.
you got to move. Oh, gotta move. You got to move, child. I say, yeah, move. 'Cause when my Lord, when he gets ready, oh, you better move.
Outstanding, Glenn. That was terrific. I mean,
Little harmonica sometimes.
well,
too.
absolutely. And to blow that harmonica and jump back out on a vocal is not an easy thing to do.
Huh.
Absolutely not. That's Glenn Kaiser. Glenn, where can people go if they would like to hear your music, see you play? I know one place, YouTube. And
Sure.
but I'm sure you have a website or someplace where people can get a hold of
look,
you.
if you type in my name in any search engine, you'll find a zillion albums and live shows and interviews and all the rest in YouTube. That's right. GlennKaiser.com is what I use as a website.
There you go. And that's
Gur Records, which is 3 R's, capital R for records. So 4 R's total. GRRRrecords.com. And I'm in Twitter. I've got a personal Facebook page that got maxed out a long time ago, and then I've got a solo Facebook page. So if you put Glenn Kaiser in Facebook, you'll find me there. And then there's the Glenn Kaiser Band, which is a 3-piece blues rock group that I front, and that's a bit of more of a hybrid. Some of it's very straight up blues, and some of it's that blues rock hybrid.
Right. Just so folks know, it's Glenn, G-L-N-G-L-E. Let me try this again. It's Glenn, G-L-E-N-N, and then Kaiser is K-A-I-S-E-R.
Yep. So you'll find me. I'm.
Even if you misspell it, because I probably misspelled it.
No problem.
And I still
sometimes
found
people do it with one N, and
right.
But anyway, yeah. So.
And if you said Glenn Kaiser musician, even if you spelled it wrong, I would imagine you could find pretty much all of it.
Well, I've been at it for a long time, so it's kind of funny. But so have a lot of people.
Are you are you selling records anywhere? And I know I said records.
GRRrecords.com would be the
okay.
the site.
So that's the place to. Yes. Okay.
There's a number of artists. We're all friends, and we've come together years ago, and decided to go for our own label.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, way back when.
Could they go to any of the other places like Amazon or other places?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But probably the first, if you stick my name in and music or whatever record CD, you'll find
that'll get you there. So yeah, you'll get. I'm sure link after link for Glenn Kaiser and certainly for the Rez Band. I found a bunch on YouTube. For the
we did 16 albums. Over the years, and starting in '78 was the first pro project. We actually put together our own pro studio. We have 2 rooms in the inner city of Chicago called Tone Zone. So we've been doing. About this, not too long after we built that studio, we started the GRR Records label.
I see.
And because there are other artists that we wanted to work with, and people that we wanted to help get out there, and the industry is most people will tell you it's a bit crazy,
right? It's
constantly in flux and changing,
Yes.
And we got to a place where it just didn't make sense. If we take all the risk, then we deploy whatever income comes in,
right?
And this is really harsh, but there's a lot of truth in it, and I don't care what kind of quote unquote segment of the industry you're in. Often it becomes the plantation and the slaves. And at one point I asked somebody, we were in between labels, and this was before we started our own, and so I asked a friend, I said, now you've been on both of these labels and they're both courting us right now.
Right.
Which one do you think makes more sense? And he goes, well, these guys park their Mercedes in the front, and these guys park them in the back.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, that's cold. But unfortunately, I'm an old hippie. What can I tell you? I would rather a mom and pop sitting in their front room who are brutally honest with what they're doing.
Right.
Look, there was a time I had to call a personal friend at one of the labels to find out what our quarterly report was.
Yeah, the music industry has changed, no doubt about it, but I like to think it's been for the better. We're visiting today with Glenn Kaiser. He's a blues musician in town for a couple of gigs over the weekend. Brian, I think we're about ready to take a break, aren't we?
We need a little bit of a break. Glenn, can you stick around for a few?
I can.
Let's come back. Let's play some music when we come back.
Yep, we'll take a break and come back with more of Glenn and his music right after this.
102.7 KPGZ, Kearney, Missouri.
Small town,
Big sound. KPGZ News.
102.7
News.
Hello, Kearney. This is Jim Dyer, and this 102.7 FM News Update is sponsored by First Missouri Bank. First Missouri Bank, serving the financial needs of the communities we call home. Member FDIC. The Courier Tribune is reporting as Clay County commissioners consider land purchases totaling millions of dollars to build a new Clay County annex in the county's west side. One commissioner, other elected office holders, and a gaggle of residents say options to update the current annex should be considered. We do own the land, and it could possibly be expanded on, said Presiding Commissioner Jerry Nolte. Looking at expanding the current annex should be an option on the table. Nolte said the current annex property, while in need of repairs, is about the same size as new property being evaluated, 5.5 acres, is mostly flat and could be added onto to accommodate the current and growing needs of the county offices it houses. The annex is home to Clay County's University of Missouri Extension and satellite offices for the county assessor, collector, and recorder of deeds. Eastern Commissioner Luann Ridgway said a new annex location was needed as the current one is difficult to locate and doesn't have enough space for security and equipment. In addition, Western Commissioner Gene Owen said he would like a property in Gladstone so employees do not have to pay an earnings tax as they do while working in Kansas City. We need to get more citizen input, the presiding commissioner said. Since the beginning of this process, the commission has heard from elected officials, developers, people selling real estate, consultants, but lost in the process are the taxpayers of Clay County. The Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services section for medical marijuana regulation announced systems are in place to begin accepting applications for patient and caregivers on Friday, June 28th. 6 days ahead of the July 4 deadline set by Article 14 of the Constitution. Patients and caregivers must visit medicalmarijuana.mo.gov to enter their information into the online application system. Sample application forms are online now, allowing patients and caregivers to preview the information and documents they will need when they apply as early as June 28th. Patient and caregiver registration fees are $25, while in-home cultivation registration fees are $100. Prior to applying, patients and caregivers are encouraged to review the regulations in place specific to qualified patients and caregivers. First Missouri Bank has 6 locations to serve you: Brookfield, Eagleville, Milan, North Kansas City, Ridgeway, and right here in Kearney, 816-903-9010, where you can visit firstmobank.com. First Missouri Bank, serving the financial needs of the communities we call home. Member FDIC. For 102.7 FM News, this is Jim Dyer. Have a great day.
Your hometown radio station is 102.7 KPGZ, Kearney, Missouri.
Programming heard on KPGZ is being underwritten by these local businesses.
This hour's programming is underwritten in part by First Missouri Bank, 455 South Sam Bar Drive in Kearney, Missouri. The phone is 816-903-9010.
Smithville Music Studio. For music lessons, guitars, accessories, and repairs. 1601 South 169 Highway in Smithville. Their phone number is 816-873-2313 or visit smithvillemusic.com.
It's important to know folks you can trust. Sure, there's a lot of places you can buy a vehicle. However, there's only a few hometown dealerships left with honest local people who will be there for you when you need them most. TDR Auto Plaza is one of those dealerships, and we've been helping our neighbors drive dependable vehicles and save money year after year. Hard-working folks helping hard-working folks. TDR Auto Plaza, 801 North Country Avenue in Kearney. The phone number is 816-903-3300. TDR, your hometown dealer, changing the way used cars are sold.
Lear Pharmacy. We're located at 1170 West Kansas Street, Suite K in Liberty. Our phone number is 816-736-4232. Lear Pharmacy, your community pharmacy.
Ziggy's General Store, right next to Watkins Mill State Park on RA Highway. Open 7 to 7, Tuesday through Sunday. Our phone number is 816-637-2298. Ziggy's General Store, where you come in as a stranger and leave as a friend.
The Animal Clinic of Kearney. Appointments can be made by calling 816-628-4035, or you can visit our office at 310 South Jefferson Street. The Animal Clinic of Kearney. Love is a four-legged word.
This is Pastor Nick DeBenedetto, pastor of Radiant Life Church here in Kearney and Ministerial Alliance president. You're listening to 102.7 KPGZ, your community radio.
And good morning from Kearney, Missouri. 102.7 KPGZ, 1027fm.rocks on the website there, and also Facebook Live. You can watch the live show here. 102.7 FM Rocks is our Facebook. We've got a ton of people in studio today. My friends Mike Davis, Jim Dickerson in studio today. Also,
hi, Brian.
Hi, Mike. Also, we're talking to blues gospel musician Glenn Kaiser here. And Glenn, we want to hear some songs right now. So what can you give us?
If I leave this world tomorrow, let me leave a little love behind. If I leave this world tomorrow, I want to leave a little love behind. There's too much pain and misery in this old world. Too much heartache and way too much crying. I've known my share of trouble, but not one time has my God failed me yet. Don't mean I always get what I want, y'all. I've known my share of trouble, not one time has Jesus failed me yet. Savior, deliverer. Man, I need all the grace I can get. I said, I've been all around this world. I said, people are people, wherever you go. I've been all around this world. Well, sometimes you bump into the microphone, don't you know? Well, I'm going to trust in your mercy, Lord. Help me share your mercy where I go. If I leave this world tomorrow, I just want to leave a little love and truth behind. Because there's way too much posing going on in this world. So much pain and misery in this old world. If I leave this world tomorrow, I just want to leave a whole lot of your love and truth behind.
And if you're just joining us, you can see Glenn tonight. He's going to be playing at the Community Covenant Church at 1820 South Jefferson in Kearney, Missouri. And then I think you're going to be over at the wedding tomorrow. Is that right? But that probably isn't something a bunch of people want to go to.
Right, by invitation only.
However, you can't crash the wedding.
Well, I was going to ask, are they going to have food over there? And if so, do you know what's on the menu? Because
my lips are sealed, but not when they serve.
But no, the thing tonight you can go to over at 1820
of course, yeah, absolutely.
Jefferson, and I know that's open to the public if anybody wants to go to that.
And open to the public means donation. It's free or what? What, Mike?
Yeah, this is Mike Coughlin. We're looking forward to accepting a love offering to help Glenn and his ministry. But the event is free. It's open to everyone, and we're looking forward to a nice crowd and a nice event this evening.
You have a nice radio voice, Mike.
Well, thank you very much.
It's very soothing. I was just about to take a nap.
Well, we normally take a nap every time you start talking, but that's
well, if you even listen to begin with,
well, there's that.
Our listener would agree with you, I think. So yeah, Glenn, I got to tell you, man, that was you're just a natural, as I said before. I think singing the blues, but the blues and gospel combination and sort of a Christian flair, or not sort of. There is a Christian flair. Obviously, you have a message. But I think the delivery of it is blues through and through. If you sang it in a foreign language, I got to tell you, man, what I heard was clear, clean blues and nice guitar
You're
work.
very
too.
kind. Thank you. Well, it's in my heart. It's in my soul. I wrote a song called, I told you earlier off air, I think I wrote a song years back called Everybody Understands the Blues. The GKB, the three-piece group, we do it often. And, I mean, everybody you can see it in their faces, down to the holes in their shoes.
Right.
You know, ain't no doubt about it. Everybody understands the blues. I mean, just the traffic jams and lying politicians and go down the list. It's just, it is what it is, you know? And again, that honesty.
Yeah, it comes through.
That
loud and clear.
integrity in the lyrics, and sometimes a bit of a shrug. You know, well, it's just the way it is, y'all.
Yeah.
You know? But it really is the way it is. What it is. You know, and
right.
Sometimes in old sort of prison jail jargon, straight up. You know.
Now,
straight up.
You mentioned that you have a prison tour. You've got a prison ministry. Tell us a little bit about that.
You were up at Cook County Prison, right?
Yeah, Cook County Jail.
Are Jake and Joliet still up there? Or Jake and Elwood? Jake and Elwood?
No, man, I love that movie.
Are they gone? I don't know if they're still around.
You know, years ago, way back actually, back in the late 70s and early 80s, Res Band did a number of huge state prisons, you know, off and on, just in normal tours. We'd be playing universities and colleges and municipal auditoriums and outdoor shows and this and that. From time to time, we had opportunity to pop into prisons. I mean, Marshall Stacks and all, the whole thing.
Nice.
I mean, we didn't bring, you know.
Just like the Blues Brothers.
Yep. We didn't bring, yeah. We didn't bring the follow spots or the several hundred light cans and the road crew, but you know, we so you go through.
And you didn't have Aretha backing you up either. So, yeah.
I got to tell you, for me, it was when the dude was doing the hand cartwheels, the handstands down the aisle.
Right.
I about fell off the chair. I was like,
I used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It was a long time
well, hey,
ago.
at least they got a little life in those African American churches.
Yeah.
So the punchline for me is doing those things over the year, and then because we live in inner city Chicago, we used to go into Cook County, and so Rez actually played in the jail there about 5 times, and then they asked me to come in a number of times solo and do solo blues sets as I began recording solo projects.
Now, when they asked you to come in, they had heard you before, and there was a response or a reaction, or in some way, you left a mark on the Cook County Jail. If nothing else.
Well, there are people again. I'll say it nicely. You know, one of my wife's favorite movies is Outlaw Josie Wales, and there's a moment where, you know, it just so happens. Sorry, I know I'm in Missouri, which is almost Kansas,
but you're not.
I supported the Union, not the South. But the punchline here is that the Redlegs, the Union commander who is about to be a dastardly bum and kill a bunch of ex-Confederates right at the end of the war. The ex-Confederate colonel, I believe it was a colonel, looks at him and says, you know, he's obviously lying to him, and he looks at him and says, I'll say it nicely, don't go wee-wee down my back and tell me it's raining. And there's when I think in the integrity factor above and beyond everything, because there's so much shamming and conning, and of course cons each
You're
other.
talking about in jail, in the jail.
Yeah,
And
jail, prisons, incarceration situations.
So when you do a gig, that you absolutely, that you can't fool anybody in there. Is what you're trying to say.
I talked to a mama years ago who was visiting us, and you know, she saw what we're doing in our shelter and all the other stuff. My wife and I live in one room by choice. We live a very simple life. Finances, like anything I get this weekend, it goes into the record label. It doesn't go to me. My basic needs are met. Okay, I live a very simple life. I'm probably the. In some, this is really tough to say about myself, but I'm probably one of the penultimate missionaries in that I really could care less if I'm sleeping on a floor. It doesn't matter to me. There are people.
It kind of does to me.
I get
I'll
that.
throw that in there.
Me too. My back can't.
I prefer hard, so that works. Right. But the problem is that there's so much game playing going on, and in the system, right. I know solid cops and jerk lying goofball cops in the inner city. Come on, it's true everywhere in the pulpits, man, in the worship teams, in the the military. I mean, I do VA hospital concerts. I do benefits for people that have lost their spouse due to war.
We're talking. I just want folks to know we're talking to Glenn Kaiser today. He's a musician, blues player, and rock, and with somewhat of a I'd say more blues than anything, but also a very nice, very very Christian sort of message that goes along with it. I'm really curious though, more than anything.
Go.
When you're when you're doing a prison gig or a jail gig. How do you see the audience responding? Do you get an opportunity to hear any of these people say, man, I heard your message and it was meaningful to me?
All the time.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, people, my heart goes out to people that don't get that. They don't get the response.
Mm-hmm.
I get it in spades. I'm almost ashamed at it. I mean, it's overwhelming. 2-3 times a week, somebody will email me. They'll find some way to connect with me with Twitter or Facebook or whatever. Hey, I was about to commit suicide. I hear that from prisoners through chaplains, sometimes direct, the local chaplains. I hear it from them when they're able to write or correspond or when they get out.
Mm-hmm.
People find you, and people know where to go. And often they don't have many other options.
Right.
Because people don't want to know them. Nobody cares how you got there. Mm-hmm. Really, nobody cares that you are there.
Yeah.
There's a prison industry in this country.
Yes.
And that's what it's called, and that's what it should be called. I have a friend of mine who, he spent a lot of time, a whole lot of time doing professional prison chaplaincy. And he happens to be the chief chaplain in one of the states. He said, I've been in prisons in Romania where there's more compassion and sensitivity.
Right. Well, if you're in the prison business, you probably don't want it to stop.
No, of course. In small towns, what have they got left?
Right, exactly.
I do small towns all over the country, but I know it's Sweden. I'll be in one in Finland soon. I've been in Iceland, in Norway, and the perspective is these are human beings, and when you treat human beings like human beings. And when you provide, in my case, songs that maybe connect with them.
And provide hope.
Yeah, you bingo. And lyrically, but also sonically. I mean, I'm not African-American. I'm not going to do rap or hip-hop. That's not who I am. It's not in me. But I'm a lot closer than a lot of the very white bread stuff that they get.
Well, listen, we don't have a whole lot of time, but we sure want to hear some more of your music.
Well, cool. Let's
play another one.
You might be the wrong color. You might have the wrong face in the wrong place at the wrong time. Enemies at your gate. Wearing the wrong clothing. Wearing the wrong shape. Too fast, too slow. Losing the human race. But honey, I got news for you. Someone is on your side. Just to understand salvation means being crucified. You might be neglected, just misunderstood. You might be rejected in your own neighborhood. Judged a pariah, nobody offers bail. You bring them love, they push and shove, and out comes 3 nails. Ask yourself this question. Really think it through. Who gets the best of what you got? Whose love bomb are you? Yeah, it's returning good for evil instead of evil for evil. Say, got to face the fallout. Love has its expense, but give yourself for something else, and life don't make no sense. called Love Bomb.
And once again, that was Glenn Kaiser. And if you want to catch him tonight, you can. And once again, that's out at I want to make sure I get it right, the Community Covenant Church, 1820 South Jefferson in Kearney, Missouri. You can go out there. That's for a donation, if that's correct. And then tomorrow's the wedding.
And then Sunday morning in Kansas City at Freedom Covenant, both at 9 and 11. My understanding is both of those, there are two different places that Freedom Covenant meets. You can find them up online, but they really do reach out to homeless folks and hurting folks. And, man, right up my alley. I love it.
And if you're looking for Glenn, you can find him on YouTube. You can find him online. You can find his stuff on Amazon. If you're looking how to spell it, it's Glenn, Glenn Kaiser, Kaiser. If you forget about it, you can go to our Facebook Live, and if you go to our Facebook Live, you'll actually see his name on there, so you can do it that way. There's about 100 different ways that you can do that. So you can either see him tonight. You can catch him when he's in Chicago or anything like that. So there's just all sorts of things you can do on Sunday. Did I leave anything out?
I think you did a wonderful job there, Jim.
And a little plug for myself while we're still here. Tonight, so here's what you want to do. This weekend is packed. Tonight you want to make sure that you go see Glenn. And then tomorrow you can join. Actually, I found out Mike's going to be there too. Tomorrow in Excelsior Springs is the Waterfest. I'll be at the Opal Wahoo gravel grinder. It's the 52-mile and the 100-mile bike race.
And I'm doing neither of those.
And he's doing neither. I'll be the MC for that. So come by and say hi. I'll be there all day promoting and being good for the radio station. But I found out today that Mike is actually going to be doing this is my favorite part, the baby poo.
That's what they call it.
They call it the baby poo.
It's
going
the
to be a
20-mile
race.
Right.
So Mike's going to be doing that. So by the time he gets to the finish line and I'm there, he'll be exhausted, and we'll go.
Assuming I make it to the finish line.
We'll go have some. We'll have some Gerber jelly or something for you when we're done.
And maybe I'll have to change my.
What kind of station is this?
You have no idea.
Glenn Kaiser, I cannot thank you enough for being with us.
Mike, thank you. My pleasure.
No,
really.
no. It's all on this side of the table. But in all seriousness, I hope that anybody that has within earshot that has heard your music, number one, can maybe find you online and perhaps buy a record. By all means, help this gentleman, help his cause. And certainly, I would say, Mike, thank you so much, Mike Coughlin, for being with us today. And you are pastor at get right in that mic there. There you go. Mm-hmm. You're pastor at.
I am pastor at Community Covenant Church of Kearney, Missouri.
So you are you will actually be there tonight.
I am really looking forward to it.
And expecting a full house. Then I would imagine.
I would expect we'll be pretty full.
Well, I hope that we here at 102.7 FM have something to do with filling that place up.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so get over there, and a love offering is all that we ask. Is that correct?
That is correct.
No tickets needed. Show up and
show up.
Wow, and listen to an incredibly talented musician with a very important message. No doubt about that. Brian, do you want to wrap us up on this? Take us in for the landing here?
After all, it is your show.
It is my show. Yeah, thanks for being on my show today.
Can you say hijack?
I believe we did.
I didn't do much of the work on that, but that's why I had you in here.
And that's different than any other day. How?
It is different than every other day because, as Mike would say, I'm the hardest working man in Kearney.
There's no doubt about that. And
I'm going to give you that. Are you going to come out and see? Are you going to come out tonight?
No, we've got some planning to do on a bridge that we're working on tomorrow for Lions Park. So,
awesome!
My son's doing his Eagle project.
You're telling me you're building a bridge.
We're building a bridge in Lions Park,
and he means it literally.
Yes.
Hey, here's a quick trivia question. So you mentioned Outlaw Josie. I know you're running late. They're just commercials.
Big deal.
You mentioned the Outlaw Josie Wales.
Right.
Remember Fletcher in that movie?
I believe so. Yeah.
All right. So, what other famous movie was he in?
Oh, now here we go. Wait, now see,
anybody?
tick.
I was just waiting to see if anybody on Facebook Live knows.
If they do, we'll give them something.
I'll give them something. Yeah,
we'll give them a 1027 prize pack, which we actually have. So
I can't connect.
But it's got to be quick. He was the Dean Wormer
Oh, that's
in
right.
Animal House.
That's
Yep,
right.
you recognize that, didn't you?
That's
Yep.
right.
Yep, that's right.
There you go.
There it is.
There's the
Wow.
winner. So
Wow.
that is useless information you can take into your weekend. That's all I have to say about that. Brian, you can have your show back.
Well, thank you very much. We're
You
going to
bet.
wrap it up here now. It's 11:27. We've got a couple sponsor messages we want to play, and then back into Kearney's Classic Hits on 102.7 KPGZ. Have a great day, everybody.
A special thank you going out to underwriters like these for their support of KPGZ.